Hello, welcome back. Thank you for giving so much love to all the episodes before. I'm back with Jayesh today. So Jayesh is an artist, a designer, and a creative entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, Lakshit. Thanks a lot for having me.
So my first question to you is if you can just speak about what you do and about your background.
That's an interesting question because it's not very easy for me to define exactly what I do because I do a couple of things.
Yeah.
But I'm primarily an artist. I like to think of myself as a visual artist. I independently am a fine artist. I paint, I draw, but but I'm not professionally trained to be an artist. I guess I went to design school. I studied visual communication. I have a branding and design agency. But I also have a slightly popular culture fashion label called the Quirk Box, which is an art-based label. We primarily make art that we convert into clothes and sell as the medium of fashion. But we're essentially the idea is to sell art.
Okay.
And that's kind of like the three things that I do as a creative person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how did you get into art? Like how did you recognize yourself as an artist? How did you think this is what it is for me?
Yeah, I really sometimes I look back and try to figure out how I got into this because I'm not very clear either. I didn't want to start out initially as a young boy. When I was in school, I thought I'd be a writer. Sometimes I thought I'd be a tennis player or a football player. And my aspirations were largely towards many other things, and art was really not on the radar at all. Especially until I went to maybe even 10th grade. I don't remember thinking of art as an option at all. I was very focused on wanting to be a sports person or some kind of an athlete. I used to play tennis, I used to play football, and I thought maybe at some point I'd pursue those as careers, but I didn't really honestly. But yeah, I knew I wasn't cut out for a 9 to 5 job. I didn't want to sit on a desk and report to people, and I just at some point I think somebody suggested that I give fashion a shot, and that was because my father was in the business of sport, and so somebody recommended that I could probably help him with a business by starting a sportswear label. And I don't know, I don't think I had a better sense at that point, and I said sure, maybe I'll give it a shot. And I started trying to understand a little bit of design, and I didn't really care for fashion honestly at all, or I didn't really care for what was suggested to me, but I started learning some softwares back in the day, like Photoshop and all, very early, when they were also kind of new at that point.
Okay.
So yeah, I started learning these softwares and I started enjoying it a lot. I started really like having fun with them, and I realized it wasn't just work for me. I started having it was like having fun sitting on the computer and playing video games. It was kind of like that for me. So yeah, I started with just like dabbling around in some software. I joined some courses and classes, and I tried to learn some Illustrator equivalent back in the day. Yeah, then I applied to design school, got a couple of rejections, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Yeah, I kind of did a small diploma in a local design school in Pune, and it wasn't really much, but it just kind of gave me a start, and I thought it was something that I felt like I could do long term because I really had fun at it. But yeah, when I started working, I realized that I was really not trained sufficiently, and I didn't have adequate foundation understanding of the creative industry, or just the arts or design, or just the principles of it for that matter, actually. And so I felt like I needed to go back to design school actually, and so I started applying to design schools all over again, and fortunately I managed to get admission in a good school in Singapore. I went to LaSalle. Did my undergrads over there, and yeah, I mean, from there it just kind of picked up. I guess my foundation got really good. I knew the rules before I could start breaking them. I started off with my own design studio not very long after I graduated. I worked for a while in advertising, and then I eventually moved back to India, started my own studio, and a couple of years later, I started the concept label called Quirk Box. And yeah, Quirk Box is now 9 years old. It's been around for a while, and it's been really exciting, really fun. I mean, I guess as a business, we all have our hardships, but I've really enjoyed the whole journey over the last decade of being a creative person.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting. what were the challenges you faced starting your company?
Well, when I moved back, actually, from being in the industry, obviously India was still, it was, design was still a new culture at that point. I mean, people worked in advertising agencies, but design studios were still few and less in number. There wasn't much acknowledgement or appreciation or value for good design, maybe. Uh, Design was something people did as a hobby, and if you told somebody, हाँ अंकल मैं आर्टिस्ट हूँ, and अरे हाँ तो बेटा वो तो हॉबी है, आप काम क्या करते हो, it was that kind of thing. There weren't so many design schools beside maybe NID, Interest, and maybe one or two here. But now that I think every city has a design school, right? So design has changed a lot over the years, and the quality of work has changed a lot over the years. The exposure, the visibility. I mean, we have access to whether it's Pinterest or just Behance or just other references, and Indians also travel a lot more now than they probably did back then. So I think the exposure and the understanding of design has evolved a lot. For me, that was a big challenge initially, because trying to convince people to pay for design, or just to get the appreciation of good design or the value of it and what it could do for their businesses or for their brands, to try to see them through, to understand that was a bit tricky initially, especially as a young startup. I guess gradually, as things evolved in the Indian market, we evolved with it as well and kind of started finding our feet. But it was pretty tricky initially to do that aspect, and also to get new clients, to convince them that, I really had no backing to prove my merit really. So why should people give me work, because I worked for a short while in the industry in Singapore, and then I came back here with to start over from scratch. So I was initially working from home from my parents, living with my parents. Just try to convince people that sure, I'm still professional, and even though maybe my setup is very garage-ish, I still do good work. So initially, I guess that was a bit of a struggle, but it picked up. Some people initially you get a few references from friends and family, and then they see some good work, they see potential, and then they make references, and then it kind of grew, of course. And then before you know it, there's some really good clients that you pick up, and there's some really exciting work that you do, and then it kind of snowballs from there.
Okay, so how if you can just explain clearly about what is your company about, what you do and how things are different from a normal company.
So there are two parts of what I do. One is a graphic design agency, and one is a fashion label.
Okay.
I used to have a design agency before the fashion label. It was probably a smaller entity. The fashion label kind of exploded in some way. I'd say, I don't know if explode is the right word, but it got a little popular. I'm primarily an artist, and I used to exhibit as a professional artist, with my paintings. I used to travel for exhibitions and shows, and both in India and outside. And I didn't really appreciate the whole elitist culture of art, and I found that there was a very small audience, and maybe just 100 people showed up to a show, which, I mean, from a show perspective is really great numbers. But, as an artist, I felt like I wanted more visibility. I had more ideas, and I felt like I wanted to reach out to more people than just a certain segment of society. And so I figured there needed to be a kind of shift to change that perspective of how people saw art. Most people I talked to had this kind of intimidation about art. They didn't understand it, or they were, they thought it was too expensive, or they were inaccessible. So how could one change that? So there was just I guess a problem that I felt like I needed to address as an artist. And so I figured if I change the medium, instead of asking people to go to a gallery and I say, there's a canvas hanging on a piece of wood framed, go see that work. Instead, what if I change that medium? What if I made that canvas hang on these people and tell them to walk the streets as the galleries themselves, So I started putting my art onto fabric, made that fabric into clothes, and made those clothes into, a walking art gallery. And so Quirk Box was born out of the need for art being more accessible. And I think Quirk Box, right, we sell fashion as a commodity. The concept continues to be art because we're about print. We make the original art that we put on the work. And yeah, kind of Quirk Box, the fashion brand kind of picked up. We started doing fashion weeks. I used to have a business partner back in the day who helped me with the fashion a lot initially as well. Yeah, and we did 7 seasons at the Lakme Fashion Week. Started dressing up right celebrities, and just got some good mileage out of it. We did some work that kind of stood out. I guess there was a very strong aesthetic to our work. My prints, my graphic style is very probably I don't know. It stands out from much of the work that's probably around there right now. It's quirky to say the least, but it's also very vibrant, very alive.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked for what we did, and then now I have kind of started my design studio again because I think the fashion brand is kind of set. It's found its feet after doing it for so many years, and I have come back into the space of design again, where now I focus on building other brands, whether it's through branding, packaging, design, through communication, through any kind of visual language that they need for their brands. Because I think people realize that there is a strong aesthetic that I bring to brands, and now I'm helping that part of my, I guess, talent, so to speak, for other brands to kind of help them find a strong identity, whether it's through a logo, as simple as designing a logo for somebody, or a print artwork for their label, which could be for their fashion label, or it could be upholstery, or whatever it is. So under the domain of Quirk Box Design Studio, we do multiple things, and under the domain of Quirk Box Fashion, I do an art-based popular culture fashion label. Yeah, so that's 2 parts of my business that I do. And independently, I'm an artist. I do a very different kind of work independently in my independent capacity than I do with, say, Quirk Box or Quirk Box Design.
Okay, so how did you feel after seeing your designed clothes in the Lakme Fashion Week? How did you feel?
It was good. It was a new territory for me initially, obviously, because I don't come from the space of fashion or the formal education of fashion. So it was just exciting. It's great energy. It's a whole set of new people that you meet, new associations that you build. It's a whole new set of people that see the kind of work you do as the creative you are. I find that very exciting. I find it very exciting to meet other creative people who are very, very talented as well. So you get opportunities to understand how other people work. You get opportunities to learn from other creative people. The energy is fabulous. So just that a week over there is very exciting. You work 6 months for 6 minutes on the ramp. So yeah, it's exhausting. At the same time, it's a very high energy, passionate space where everybody's on the edge, maybe because. But yeah, it's wonderful. It's really it's great. It's been a great experience. It's really helped catapult us in a certain way. We've probably leveraged in some ways from the opportunities that we could derive from doing 7 seasons there. But of course, I think we're also fortunate that Lakme has seen us worthy to be showcasing and just generally being in the magazines, getting the right celebrities to wear clothes, and so yeah, it's quite exciting for sure. Yeah.
Okay, like how would you describe this journey of your life? How would you describe the journey in simple words?
It's been both challenging and exciting at the same time. It's been a learning curve. I'm very evolved in some ways from when I started out. I obviously know so much more. I see things from different perspective. I'm probably more intuitive to things. My creative process is very different. I believe in the need for delegation every now and then. You can't do everything yourself, which I feel like I used to want to do, especially earlier. You learn to trust other people's credibilities as well, which I think is very important for your growth. You learn from other artists. I'm very inspired by many other artists, designers, both. I follow them on Instagram and generally in person, people that I know. It's been a learning curve for sure. The last, so many years doing what I do. And I think that's been the most exciting thing for me, just to see how things have evolved, see that, what I sought out to kind of achieve in some way has been addressed. I wanted many people to have access to the kind of creative work that I do, and I think through what I created, I in some way managed to achieve at least a portion of that, if not entirely. But yeah, so it's been very fulfilling for sure, for sure. I'm very grateful for what has become of what I started off, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So, what if you would like to speak about the dark side about the industry which you work in?
I wouldn't say it's a dark side of the industry, but it's a very competitive industry.
Okay.
Many people, much like myself, come with the same intention of wanting to succeed in some way.
Yeah.
You make friends sometimes, but they're probably short-lived associations. They're not always friends, maybe. And maybe you, of course, it's not that you don't, but you also do for sure. I also have good friends from the industry, but some associations are fleeting. Some associations are only relevant as long as you are relevant.
Yeah.
So it's a very maybe cutthroat, but I think that's probably true of most industries as well. I guess also creative people can be a little eccentric. So it's just 100 artists in one space, so the space can be pretty tricky as well. It's not really dark, I'd say, but it's very challenging for sure, because also people see the glamour side of fashion, but sure, it looks good when you go on the ramp and when some celebrity wears your clothes. But what you don't realize is that actually we sit in a workshop for 6 months with tailors and masters and just figuring out did we get the right buttons, did we get the right shape, fitting, size, did the tailor come on time, was salaries paid, was the light bill paid, did you file your taxes, and so you realize that the business side of it is not exciting at all. So sure, when you go up there on ramp and you see 6 minutes of models walking that look great, you think, oh, this is beautiful, it's so glamorous. But actually, it's only 6 minutes of glamour, but the other 6 months that we worked for that, there was nothing glamorous about it for sure. It's very challenging. We have to figure out the business of it. Did we sell enough clothes? Did somebody copy your designs? Are you filing suits? It's just constantly tricky. Are you getting the right mileage? Are people, it's so that's something that most people kind of tend to ignore. And for us, it's really the 6 months that are of more consequence sometimes than those 6 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. So now, what the question I had was, like, what would be an advice to anyone who wants to get into artistic, occupations?
Sorry, come again?
Yeah. What would be an advice for anyone who wants to get into artist occupations?
It's a very emotion and passion driven space. Any kind of creative form comes from a certain emotion, a certain passion.
Okay.
And it's not an easy space for sure. It's not something you go in expecting it to be cushy or expecting at the end of the month you're going to get a fixed salary. So there are those but it's very fulfilling. It's just to look back and see the people that I have met, or the people that I have dressed, or the people that have bought my art, or those opportunities. So. But I'd say that persevere, because it's a very tough space.
Yeah.
It's not something that comes easy. It's not something that comes quick. It's taken me a long time. I'm sure it's taken many others, maybe lesser, some more, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's taken me a while to get to where I am. And I'd say perseverance is the key. If you believe in something, chase it. If you believe this is what you like, if you believe this is what you want to do, this is what you want to see yourself succeed at, or just chase that. I think perseverance has been the key for me, just to make sure that I stand up every time I fall down, because you fall down more times than you will stand up. But just you got to believe that, and also try to keep improving and evolving as both an artist.
Okay.
Because maybe the style of work that I did 10 years ago may not be relevant today, or you've just evolved as an artist and your thought process is different. So, I think that's also part of who we are. It's we adapt, we change. Change, I guess, is normal in some way, right? So, it's just accepting all of that. That maybe because I feel like when I started off doing design, there was a style of work that made me popular, and in my head, I feel like, oh, I should keep doing that because it made me popular. But that's really not true. everything changes, and adapting to that is important. But I think I'd say the most important takeaway for me was perseverance.
Okay, how bad, like not bad, I don't know how this industry is affected. Like how are you affected by the pandemic which is going all around the world right
now? I mean, of course, it's quite tragic for the rest of the world. But I mean, I've been very fortunate in the space that I am, in terms of I'm safe, I'm fine, I'm financially secure.
Yeah.
My work is not affected. I'm working from home and I'm just fine. I have sufficient work, so that keeps me sane. But of course, I have my own set of anxieties about where this could go. It's been a couple of months now, and we don't know what's ahead of us, right? So if this goes on, if the lockdown may open, but that doesn't mean the virus is gone, and there's bound to be a second wave for sure. So there are, we have our own set of anxieties of what work could bring. My parents are old, or it's just not old, but really, they're not young anymore. So I have, I worry for them. Honestly, I'm very fortunate to be where I am, and very grateful that I'm safe and fine, and I have all the supplies coming, and so it's been good. I mean, in a personal capacity, I don't have much to complain about in this pandemic.
Okay, so I think, would you like to give a message or speak about something? Speak about anything?
Sure, I think. Yeah, I'd like to say that, I don't know, whatever field you pick up, whether it's creative or whatever it is that you do, I think perseverance is the key. It really, 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 really is the key, because we all, especially when we're young, we want success quick, we want money quick, we want everything to come fast, and we're always looking at somebody else who's doing better. Yeah. And we're always like, "Arey, mujhe jaldi paisa chahiye." It's always that thing we're chasing about, right? But my parents probably told me the same thing, that good things take time, and and that when you're younger, you don't understand those things any better. But it's really something that I believe is that you just have to persevere. You really, really, really have to persevere and keep working hard towards the same thing that you enjoy doing, however many times you fail. And believe me, I've failed far too many times. But I think it's very important. I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation is maybe you found me somewhere you like what I do. So for me, that's in some way, that's success as well. Success is not just measured by a bank balance or how many pieces of art or clothes I sold, but just the fact that, people find inspiration in what you do. That for me is very meaningful. So hopefully, if you can do something at the same time that inspires people or create some kind of an impact, or people want to talk to you, I think that would be great, as whether it's an artist or just any other entrepreneur. I'd like to leave on that note that perseverance is the key, and probably try to stay humble and just appreciate what you have.
Okay, so last 5 fast questions I have for you. So you can just answer them any way you wish to, long, small, anything. So a best advice you've received from someone. A best advice.
Always persevere.
Okay, and the worst one?
You're horrible at what you do. Stop doing it.
Okay.
Somebody told me that.
Okay. So how would you need, what to say? What is one thing you learned from your failures?
That you can overcome them.
Okay. Then an advice to your 18-year-old self?
Don't be in a rush.
Okay. So one more question. How would you describe this journey in one word?
Exhilarating.
Okay. So thank you very much. Had an amazing session with you. I'm just grateful that you joined, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Lakshit. Thanks for having me.